This video is sponsored by Skillshare. This man's name is Reiner Knizia, and yes, he has designed over 700 board games, and we will review every single one of them. Well, okay, so we're gonna review 3 of them in part 1, and the other 697 plus we will review in part 2, which I'm sure is gonna go live any moment now. Here's some fun Reiner Knizia facts to get us going. He used to be an operations director of a multi-billion-dollar mortgage company before quitting the life of high finance to become a board game designer. The root of his last name shares the same root as the Russian word for knight, knyaz. And finally, if you type in Knizia into Google, one of the first results is just people asking, how much is this man worth? All right, I hear you. 700 games, not very impressive if they're all rubbish. Friedman Fries, for example, designed 504 games in just one box, and they all range from not very good to please take that away from me. But that's the thing, you see. Reiner Knizia is the hunk with no junk. His games frequently range from, this is okay, I had a fine time, to this might be the best game I have ever played. Shamefully, in my 7.5 years reviewing board games, I have but one Reiner Knizia video review under my belt. And when I say belt, I mean a YouTube playlist of our reviews. Today, we will fix that mistake with not 1, but 3 out of this world fantastic games, and at the end of the video, we'll do a lightning round review of some of the others, just in case part 2 never comes out. Modern Art is the only board game in the world that I own 2 copies of, which also by default makes it the only board game in the world that I own 3 copies of. And if you want one of these, you can pry them from my cold, dead hands. Modern Art is one of the earliest Reiner Knizia designs, ranging as far back as 1992. And in pandemic years, that makes it as old as chess. In Modern Art, you'll play competing museums putting up art for auctions. You'll start with a hand of cards, each representing paintings from 5 different artists. If it's your turn, pick any card from your hand and put it up for auction. If you sell it to someone, great! You take their money and squirrel it away behind your screen. This is very good, because whoever has the most money at the end of the game will win and will be crowned Dr. Moneypants. That's a real rule, by the way, I didn't make that up. You can, however, bid on the auction yourself, and if you win it, you spend your own money and adopt that sinking feeling that says, oh no, have I made a horrible mistake? Great! Now I have this worthless piece of junk. What's art good for anyway? It is literally the opposite of money. Not to worry, because sometimes art is popular. And if art is popular, you can sell it. Purchased art stays in front of the respective owners. The 5 different artists will be evaluated at the end of each round. The most popular artist will be worth the most, the second one less, and the third one least. Whereas the 2 least popular artists will be worth nothing. And here's the catch. At the end of each round, after the artists have been judged and found either pretentious or wanting, you are forced to flog all the art. That's right, sell all of it, even if it's worth squiddly squat. If I had to find common ground in all of Reiner Knizia's 700 plus games, which obviously I've all played, it would be the sensation of, ooh, I get it now. Reiner Knizia likes to make you feel stupid, but not in a nasty way. He hides the fun, tucks it in a little box to be opened later as a surprise. This is why you frequently hear that his games are dry, which A, is nonsense, and B, is only understandable if your critique ended at reading the rules rather than playing the game itself. Modern Art is exactly the same. Here's some art, sell it in an auction, forced to sell it at the end of the round, then there's 4 rounds, and the game ends. but actually it's littered with lightbulb moments, like clues to be found in a scavenger hunt. First up, there's 4 different types of auctions, with a 5th semi-type to really spice things up. The type of auction depends entirely on what piece of art you put up for auction. So for example, if I went with this Sigrid Thaler, we would have to hold an open auction. That's the type of auction you typically see in movies, where anyone can name any price as long as it's higher. Your typical, can I get $1? $1. Anyone $2? $2. $3? Can I hear $5?
100 million clams!
Sold to young Richard E. Grant. Other auctions include a hidden auction, where everyone secretly puts some money in their hands and then simultaneously reveals it. A one-time offer auction, where in clockwise order players either bid higher or pass, but only have a single chance to make an offer. And finally, a fixed price auction, where the auctioneer sets the price and in clockwise order players either buy it or pass. Every auction turns into a surprise, a change of pace. Ooh, what's this one going to be? A hidden auction? We haven't had those in a while. What? 2 fixed price auctions in a row? By the same artist? Things are getting spicy. But nothing is as spicy as the double auction. If you put up a piece of art with the double auction symbol, you have to immediately put up a second piece of art by the same artist. And the type of auction on that second card will determine how both of these paintings will be sold together. Thunder crackles in the distance. Something changes in the air. Voices hush when someone puts up a double auction, because it's a signifier, nay, an omen that we're in the big leagues now. It's also one of those light bulb moments, because at the start of the round you might have a lot of one artist in your hand and you go, okay, if I put up a double auction of Manuel Carvalho right now, well, there's going to be a lot of Manuel Carvalho paintings out, and then everyone knows that Manuel Carvalho is valuable. And so when I keep putting Manuel Carvalho paintings for sale during that round, I will get a lot of money from it. And then you realize that you're selling the popular dude to everyone else, and everyone else will be making a profit off of him. Because the round ends when any of the artists have a grand total of 5 of their paintings sold during that round, you might do a lot better quietly buying up Manuel Carvalho paintings and then just end the round with a double whammy of a double auction, and suddenly you have free paintings of the most valuable artist out there. But the best part of modern art is the theatrics. There's certainly no rule that says that you have to big up the art that you put up for auctions, but if you don't, you're missing out on some prime comedy. Hello everyone! Today for sale we have Daniel Malim's Oil. Oil, of course, represents the sheer existential dread that we all encounter when we realize that oil isn't actually good to eat, and we've eaten a lot of it, and now it's in our tummy, and we kind of go, oh no, oil. So that's what that's about, and I will see the bidding start at $1 million. That's Sigrid Thaler's Das Reisenrad. And that is, of course, about the universe, because you see there's a Ferris wheel, but you see every booth on the Ferris wheel has only a single lone occupant. So that represents our loneliness in the universe, and that we're all ultimately just going around in circles alone without anyone to keep us company. And we'll start the bidding at $2 million. Art is a funny thing. No, literally, art is funny, and how we interpret art is also funny. And that's precisely why I own free versions of modern art. Sure, mechanically, they are 100% identical, but the mood is so subtly altered based on which artists are on display. The CMON version of modern art, which is nearing the stage of hard to find, so if you want a copy, grab one now, has easily the worst art. And when I say worst, I don't mean it looks bad. It's high contrast, vibrant, has broad appeal. Basically, it's very kitsch, which makes it perfect for this game because you can talk endless bullshit about it. Bonus comes with a tiny gavel, which is very cute. Unless you have the Korean Dice Tree Games version. And when it comes to gavels, well, this is pretty much just an actual gavel. If you think this is excessive, wait till you see the other components. These metal coins feature a relief of the artists in the game, with the 100 coin featuring a relief of Reiner Knizia himself. And whilst I do have to knock some points off for replacing his signature bow tie with a regular tie, I mean, this is just special, right? Bonus, there is a tiny wooden easel, although it doesn't really work very well, and 2 different sets of artwork, one Western and one traditional Korean. And whilst none of this stuff is exactly modern art, like the Western art is just mostly impressionist paintings, but you do get to talk bull about this scream all you like. Now, let me show you the Mayfair version. Hello! This you will have to find secondhand if you want it, but you can probably find it very cheap, and I recommend it highly. The art is out of this world, which is just the right level of kitsch for modern art, but also there's someone called light metal. Honestly, this is just an endless amount of bizarre, weird, and delightful. It's a real shame that the other components are a bit pants. I've gotten rid of mine and just kept the cards and the board and use bits from other versions of modern art. And if you have some metal coins from another board game or some poker chips, the Mayfair version is a bargain. Get modern art if you want a great introduction to board games, or if you like a bit of theatrics, or if you love a good auction and Tim Wonnacott makes you wanna oh no. Best yet, there's other versions too. If you visit the Board Game Geek entry for modern art and go on the versions tab, there's a whole lot of modern art from different countries and in different languages, but there's never any text here, so as long as you get yourself an online rulebook in your language, you should be able to play any of these. Warning, do not attempt to buy the Japanese stamps version of modern art. Not only is it so rare that it asks a price of £500 on the second-hand market, but also you have to big up stamps, which is probably rubbish. I don't know. I've never played it, because I'm not going to spend £500 on another version of modern art. Let's talk about another game. People are designed to recognize patterns. It's a genetic tool that's been passed down through generations so that we could survive IKEA. When we hear that a man has designed 700 board games, one question immediately springs to mind. What have I been doing with my life? But also, what unifies them? I don't know how to tie up that many creative endeavors from different genres, mechanisms, and settings, but I think one way we can recognize a Knizia game is iteration. Dr. Reiner sometimes breaks ground with innovation, but most often he's seen taking an established idea, stripping it down, and exposing what's most fun about it. My City takes 2 established board game tropes, that being the legacy genre, which are a type of campaign games where rules change, cards are ripped, stickers are glued, and a pen is applied liberally to board game components, and polyamino tile laying, which are, the Tetris pieces, which I now realize are also a type of pattern recognition. Blimey Gertrude, he gamified our lizard brains. Once again, describing the rules to My City will make it seem drastically dull, but bear with me. In My City, you'll have a board with some trees and rocks, and you'll also have some polyamino pieces. Each turn a card is drawn displaying a Tetris, and you'll take it and place it on your board adjacent to the river, but not crossing it, or if it's not your first piece, then you can place it adjacent to another piece. At the end of the game, you'll get 1 point for each tree you haven't covered up, but lose a point for each rock still visible and each light green space you haven't covered up. Aside from some nuances and particularities, that's it. That's the game. Draw a card, take a piece, put it down. But do not mistake the rule set for the game. For My City, is some of the most fun I've had with stickers since that time I ended up in A&E with sticker writers. My City is a masterclass of emergent game design. The entire campaign is split up into 8 chapters. Each chapter is a play session, but it's once again split into 3 episodes, each episode representing a game, meaning that when you sit down to play a game of My City, you won't be playing one of them, you'll be playing 3. Yet, each time, the rules will change. Thankfully, I don't even need to spoil anything in these deceptively stuffy looking envelopes to show you what I mean. The basic rules are enough. When I flip my first card, I have to place that piece. That's simple, right? Sure, but I've just reduced the available space in the game. The river already makes things awkward because I can't overlap it, and I also don't want empty green spaces. So I better make sure that all of these pieces fit perfectly, and if I place this here, I already made a mistake because I can never fill that space because the river prevents easy placement. I also have to account for uneven borders formed by this mountain here and this forest here, and I have to account for every single piece in the game. Because even if I make one slip, I have to cover up trees. And that is literally the only thing that scores me positive points in the game. Involuntarily, a plan starts forming in your head. The blue square block goes here, the straight one goes in this corner, and then you draw a card and go, I had no plan for this piece. I guess I could just put it here. What could go wrong? What could go wrong indeed? If you're asking yourself, wait a minute, what's up with all this other stuff? Like, why are there tetris in 3 different colors? Why is there a forest? Why is there a mountain? Why is there all this space on the side of the board? All of these questions have an answer, but not one I will tell. I will, however, say that the good doctor uses the legacy format to once again return to his design tropes, and it works a treat. Remember when I said that Reiner Knizia likes to put plot twists in his games? Those little moments of understanding where you go, ooh, I think I get it now. Well, My City is like a roller coaster ride of plot twists where each time you start to get a handle on how it plays, it introduces a new rule that just seems utterly ludicrous. But that changes everything I understand about how this game works, you will say to yourself upon reading the rules for the next chapter, and then you'll be like, okay, no worries, I'll just play a little bit and ooh, I think I'm starting to get it now. Wait a minute, what are the rules for the next episode? It's a bumpy ride, for sure, and I don't think My City is for everyone. If you hate having the rug pulled from under you, then this game is like having your face hit with that same rug over and over again for no particular reason. I love it, but I'm a glutton for punishment, and Reiner really uses his understanding of our lizard brains to punish you extra. Realizing that humans recognize patterns is one thing, but using that knowledge directly against us is some next level Sith Lord meddling. Hey, guess what's fun about recognizing patterns? It's that we tend to group them together. So if we see a Z shape, we're like, cool, that's a Z shape. I have that, I will use it. And when you have a Z-shaped gap and the Z shape comes up, you're like, cool, I'll put it here. Only to realize that it's the wrong Z shape. And the Z shapes in My City only face one way, so you have no one but yourself to blame. Right? Right? My City is a game of frustration, groans, and a shared sense of commiseration at your own folly and mistakes. But there's one final rule that stops it from being a misery fest and turns it into a comedy of errors. Every time you flip the card that tells you what piece you place, you must then immediately place that piece. You've not got time to think. Now, that might sound awful, you might say. What's the point of playing a thinky game if you haven't got time to think, you might think. Well, I think that it's the spirit of the rule that matters here, rather than the rule itself. What My City is trying to do is to stop you from overthinking it, because you could literally sit here and analyze your board for 5 minutes between every card flip to find the perfect placement. Instead, it just gently rushes things along to be polite to all players. But what that rule then achieves is a different sense of timing and pace. You might have just made the silliest mistake of your game, but oops, too late, time to make another one, and another one, and another one. You can't help but laugh at the misery. This is also where my city falls apart a bit. Somewhere around chapter 6 things get a little bit more thinky, to the point where if you followed this rule at all, the game would stop making sense. Less of a house builder and more burning down the house. But the mileage you'll get out of it by then is already double the entry cost, so there is no way that'll stop me from recommending it. Also, whilst we're on the subject of criticism, I should note that there is an eternal mode that'll let you play your copy indefinitely, but it is nowhere near as fun as the constant sense of discovery you get while playing through the campaign. Bonus, if you plan to play My City with just 2 people, you should be theoretically able to play through the campaign twice, as there's enough components and stickers in the envelopes to double the trouble. But also, if you plan to play with just 2 players, please consult BGG for rules advice, because the rules for 2 players scoring in the rulebook is unclear. Also, consult BGG for rules advice regardless of player count each time you start a new chapter, because ambiguities abound. Otherwise, in My City, Reiner Knizia fathered one heck of a baby. And since we're talking of babies, it's time to move on to... I am so sorry, but I had to do that because much like an actual infant, Babylonia is a game that will demand all of your attention. I know this is becoming a little bit formulaic, but every time I mention a new Reiner Knizia game, I can pretty much invent a new connective tissue between all of them. So instead, here's another connective tissue between some of them. If Dr. Reiner is known for galvanizing other ideas and iterating on them, he's also known for cannibalizing his own ideas and giving them a bit of a tweak. One of his early designs is Through the Desert, a game in which you build roads out of camels. I'm not really sure how that works. You skip along humps, maybe? But he later revisited that design in Blue Lagoon, where you also build roads out of people from Polynesia. Best not to dwell on that. Another one of his famous designs, perhaps even one of the most beloved, is Tigris and Euphrates, a tile-laying game of shifting chairs. You try to sit on one and oops, your bum is on the floor, which he again later revisited in another title called Yellow and Yangtze, and both of these we'll touch on a little bit in the lightning round. And in true Marvel Avengers crossover fashion, ideas from both of these Knizia branches intermesh in Babylonia, plucking the juiciest fruits of each to be delivered on your table. In Babylonia, you'll try and win the game by having the most points, but whereas other board games make you chug along at the start, here you rev up to 60 in the first 10 seconds and the pace never lets up until one of you crashes into the finish line. At the start of the game, each player will be dealt a hand of 5 clan tokens in your color. These could be nobles, represented by pots, beards, or the Illuminati, or they could be farmers, where the artwork shows an uncomfortably contorted person with a sickle, probably a Soviet zombie. On your turn, you get to put down 2 tokens on almost any space of the board. There's no funky adjacency rules, you just plonk it down wherever you like, and there it will live immovably forever. Here's a trick. Deploying nobles is great. Once a city is surrounded by tokens completely, it'll score everyone points. If the city shows beards as part of its scoring condition, you will get 2 points for any beard that is hanging out by that city in your color. But also, any opponent that has beards adjacent to that city will also get 2 points per beard. Furthermore, if you have an uninterrupted line of tokens with beards in them, then also those tokens will score you 2 points per beard in that uninterrupted line. And the same is true for your opponent. Let me illustrate something clever. Let's say there's a city with 4 tokens around it. I could spend both of my token placements to surround it completely and then it would score, and it would score me 6 points in total. That's pretty nice. But what I can do instead is plonk just one token down. Now, whoever has the most tokens around a city will get the city tile itself, and that's potentially extra points. So no matter what happens in this game, when this is complete, I will score a bunch of points from it. Meanwhile, that other token can go somewhere else and fight another important battle. That might sound smart, and it is, but then you realize that by delaying, you've given your opponent an opportunity to link up that lone token with a row of other ones, and now when the city is complete, they will also be scoring a bunch of points. And that's just cities. I don't know what was happening in ancient Babylonia, but if we're to go by this game, there were probably points everywhere. Place a farmer on a tile with a farmer, that's points. Place things next to a ziggurat, that's not only points, that's points equal to the number of ziggurats you have things adjacent to. Did I mention that if you only play farmers, instead of playing 2 clan tokens a turn, you can play as many clan tokens as you like? That means that hypothetically, if my hand was composed entirely out of farmers, I could go bam, 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 bam. That's 15 points. Good night, everybody. Feels so great. I know I'm making this sound like point pinball, and to a large extent it is, but I like how much scope there is for careful and considered moves. I could, for example, place a tile here, place a tile here, and then this city would score, and that's 2, 4, 6, 8 points. That's great, but there's also 2, 4, 6 points to my opponent. Or I could spread out a little bit and start populating my tokens in various corners of the map, but then am I giving my opponent too much ground over here? Who knows? And of course, you saw it coming. Here's the Reiner Knizia plot twist. Except this time it doesn't appear during the game, and it's not so immediately obvious. It lies in the weeds and roots of Babylonia. When you finish a game, you'll go, huh, that was pretty close. You got some points, I got some points, you got some points again. But the victory, that was pretty decisive. That's because as much as Babylonia paints itself to be a game about shrewd opportunism, the real victor is the person who wove the best plan throughout the game. Secretly, it was about building an infrastructure all along, connecting the land together. You might even say it's less of a Reiner Knizia game and more of a Reiner Knizia game. In this video, I'd rather not pick at how Knizia games are themed because we'll start plucking at the ugly scabs of board gaming, but I feel like there's something emergent here. The villains of this story are opportunists eking out an unfair advantage, but the heroes are the people who build sustainable systems that will outlast them. A tale as old as time. I haven't even mentioned the special powers you get from winning majorities for ziggurats, and those are also exciting, but we have precious little time in this video, and there's some things about Babylonia you need to know before you hit purchase. First of all, this board is ludicrous. It is so over the top big that I could almost forget how poor it is for comprehension. Is it gorgeous? Absolutely. It's got greens and blues, and that color palette is my jam. But it is also impossible to tell what is a land tile and what is a river tile, and that's very important for scoring. There's the faintest whiff of a symbol identifying rivers, but you can barely make it out. Also, these wooden token holders might look really cool, and they are, until I tell you that for them to properly function, I had to put blue tack underneath them. And finally, would you like to know how I feel about the rulebook? That's right, it's hot garbage with many rules left ambiguous. Would I recommend Babylonia in spite of those issues? Yes, frankly, I think it's pretty great, but only by the virtue that the better Reiner Knizia tile laying games are out of print and mega expensive. And I will tell you about those in our credits lightning round that will happen right after a word from our sponsors. So much Knizia, so little time. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, the online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators. You don't have to design 700 board games to make yourself feel good, but you'll certainly benefit from broadening your knowledge and horizons. Skillshare offers thousands of online tutorials for almost any subject imaginable, from cooking to photography to interior design to even board game design. It's never too late to brush up your skills, even if it's something you're already comfortable with. I've been making videos on YouTube for 7 years, but that's not going to stop me from learning from people at the top of their game. So who better to learn from than Marques Brownlee and his class, YouTube Success, Script, Shoot and Edit with MKBHD. That man has interviewed the president, and not the bad one. Skillshare lets you set your own pace and follow along with a comfortable structure. There's no ads, just the tools you need to become better. Best yet, the first 1,000 of our subscribers can click the link in the description to get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare Premium so you can start exploring your creativity today. Welcome to the unscripted lightning round, aka the most terrifying thing I have ever done in my life, where I will review a new Reiner Knizia board game every 30 seconds or so, and I don't even know which one's coming next. Elaine's gonna pass me one, it's her decision what it is, and if there's a jump cut, you will know that something has gone wrong. Elaine, let us begin. Oh my god, Medici the dice game. So this is, Medici was a Reiner Knizia auction game, so they took what's fun out of the auction game, that being the auction part, and made it into a fairly average roll and write. I did not like Medici the dice game, and I would not recommend it to anyone simply because the game is fine, but there's better roll and write games out there. Oh my god, Winner's Circle, where do I even begin? This is from the Dice Tree Games, again the Korean publisher. I mentioned that for Modern Art in the review. As always, Dice Tree Games do a lovely production, and this has horses, and it's a game about horse racing, which is probably the most vile sport I've ever encountered, and the only reason for its existence is to give Claire Balding a career. Now, in Winner's Circle, you will bet against horses who are racing, and what's great about it is that it's sort of like a roll and move game, but like really great for introducing people to board games. Check out Winner's Circle. It's really, really good. I have to move on to Tigris and Euphrates. Tigris and Euphrates is a classic, one of the 8 board games to ever have been on BGG's #1 best board game of all time. I love Tigris Euphrates. It's this sort of game where it's kind of like Game of Thrones, where you have all these advisors and you have to gain points from them by laying tiles next to them, but there are other players' advisors and you want to kick them out, so there's like wars and everything on this board. But the most important thing about it is that your score is the least type of victory points you have out of 4 different types of victory points. Yellow and Yangtze is the sequel to Tigris and Euphrates, and it's kind of like Tigris and Euphrates, and if you want Tigris and Euphrates, you can't buy that, that's out of print. This, you can still sort of find it, it's going out of print, but it's not as good as Tigris and Euphrates. Some people say because it's a little bit looser, because in Tigris and Euphrates, you have tiles that are square, as you can see on this square and these squares, and in Yellow and Yangtze, you have hexagons, and hexagons have more edges to them, so it's a little bit looser and a little bit more free. Oh my god, it's Royal Visit. In Royal Visit, you have an amazing production from Yellow. It's a game that's been republished with a different theme. Before, the theme was not good. I'm not gonna say what it was, but you have this like cloth board, and you have to move pieces about, and you have to get the pieces in the right place. It's a tug of war game. I would recommend it. It's pretty nice, but I won't because Watergate exists and it's a little better. That's Royal Visit. Ra, another Reiner Knizia classic auction game. It is the total opposite of Modern Art. Modern Art is this freewheeling, loose Reiner Knizia auction game. Ra is very strict, and it's got set collection, and you bid on tiles, and you don't want to bid on anything, but you also want everything, and you never get enough of anything. It's also out of print, but I hear there is a new version coming with an artist that I am very, very, very excited about. Stevenson's Rocket. That's cheating, Elaine, because I've not played it. No idea. This is a train game by Reiner Knizia. I've not played it. It's got trains, and I hear it's not good with 2 players, but I also hear, much like Tigris and Euphrates, is notoriously hard to explain. There's surely not going to be any more games because there's Quest for El Dorado. This is really good. I really like it. It's got a very colonialist appropriative theme that I don't enjoy. The theme I wish was anything else but it, but it's a deck building game with scantily a few deck building cards, but they're all very powerful, all very, very cool, and you have to move your figures across a map that you compose in these different maps, and there's also standalone expansion, and that standalone expansion, in my opinion, isn't as good because it's not as pure an experience, whereas in base game, Quest for El Dorado, you just sort of run through the map, and whoever gets to the finish line first wins. There's no points or anything like that. Is that it?
That's it.
That's it. That's Reiner Knizia, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. In case it wasn't clear from the joke at the beginning, there will be no part 2. This is it. This is our retrospective of Reiner Knizia games. But if you want to know some more about the games that I talked about in the lightning round, there will be a future podcast episode, and you can go to nopunincluded.com/podcast and check it out. In fact, go there now, or watch some of our other videos that are appearing somewhere over these board games. Thank you very much, everyone. If you like us, support us on Patreon. Bye-bye.